Hey guys, welcome back to the Homemade Haven. Today's video is a little bit tough to share, but it's something that we as homesteaders have to constantly reevaluate and put plans into action in order to keep things running smoothly. We started homesteading a few years ago in efforts to grow the majority of the food that we consume for our own family and for our extended family. We wanted to know exactly where our food was coming from, exactly what had been put into it, what it had been eating, the way that it was raised, and we didn't see any other option other than doing it ourselves. This has definitely been a journey for us from the very beginning, getting our raw land up and running and ready to grow and produce all of our own food. We have learned a lot as far as plants and animals go, and we still have so much to learn going forward. But there comes a time where you have to make some pretty tough decisions on the homestead to keep things moving in the right direction. There are times you have to reassess if things are making sense, if they are benefiting, or if they are causing more harm than good. With it being the start of a new year, we have reevaluated a few things here on our homestead and have made the decision to let a couple of our animals go. The very first animal that we brought to our homestead were our chickens, and these chickens were strictly for egg production. Then eventually we started getting into meat birds, which are a specific breed of chicken to grow out in order to have our own homegrown chicken. After we had kept the chickens for a little while, we decided to make a big leap and bring home a couple of pigs. We decided to go with the Berkshire breed of pig because they were said to be the most flavorful and to grow out super fast in about 6 months. You guys may remember the video of when we brought our first 2 pigs home, one of them being our female that we had planned to keep and raise here on our farm to be our breeder. And a few months later, we brought home our boar Tiny. The goal was, once they were of breeding age, to put them together and hopefully be able to produce some pork here on our homestead. Now, we did bring home 2 barrows along with them so that we could go ahead and raise them out and put some pork in our freezer the very first year, which we were able to do, and we were super happy with the results that we had. Around that same time, we placed our gilt and our boar together and hoped that they would breed for us. We were still kind of learning pigs and not really sure if our female took at all, and so we waited the 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, and unfortunately no piglets ever came along. So once her next heat cycle came around, we placed them together again, and things were not looking great. Our female wanted nothing to do with our male. They were screaming and fighting and biting, and there was definitely nothing good going on. So we left them together for another heat cycle, hoping that maybe them spending some time together, she would accept him and be ready to make babies with him. And the second heat cycle came around, and it seemed like a lot of the same thing. So once that heat cycle had passed, we went ahead and separated them again, and we're hoping for the best whenever her next heat cycle would roll around, that maybe she would skip it, meaning that she was pregnant. Once her heat cycle came around, she did go back into heat, meaning that she did not get pregnant once again. We started to weigh our options and realized that maybe she was not a great candidate for breeding. She had shown some signs of her back legs being a little bit weak in the past, and so we don't know if there was any kind of defect that she's dealing with, but regardless, she wants nothing to do with our boar. For trying to have a source of sustainable pork on the farm, that is not a great combination. So we were presented with a couple of different offers on how we can continue to keep our farm in pork, but unfortunately none of those options will include having Judy stay here with us. This is a super tough decision for us because we love Judy. She's a great pig. She's got a great personality, She's very gentle and sweet, but she unfortunately does not want to have any babies. And with her being 450 pounds plus, we just don't have the extra space and capacity to keep her as a pet here on our farm. So unfortunately, our only other option is to send her to the butcher and have her returned to us as meat in our freezer. Whew, it's definitely going to be a tough day when that day rolls around. As for Tiny, our boar, his plans are a little uncertain here on the homestead as of the moment. Peeking. So obviously keeping a big 400-pound boar with no female to breed with is not ideal or sustainable for our homestead. So we have arranged with a friend to have their female brought over right around Valentine's Day so that Tiny can have a visit and hopefully create us all some pork for the year. After that, we are kind of up in the air about whether we're going to keep him and get another female, or if we're going to go ahead and rehome him and maybe switch to pigs that are a little bit smaller. I'm not sure how well this comes through on the camera, but you can see this ground here in this particular area is disgusting. We have very heavy clay soil here, and this property stays pretty wet throughout the winter. Now, you would think that pigs love mud, and they do. They don't seem to mind it too much, but we don't like them being up to their chest in mud. Thankfully, they do have plenty of other area inside of this pen to get in that is dry. Back in the woods is all dry back in there. But where they congregate up here at the front and are able to root, because there aren't any trees up here, it just becomes a mucky mess. And so we've been considering maybe switching to a smaller breed of pig so that their footprint is just a little bit less on this land and maybe won't be such a big mess come winter time. Hopefully rehoming Tiny won't be as hard as it would be to rehome Judy, because he is only a year old and he is registered Berkshire, and he is willing and ready to make piggy babies as long as he has a willing participant. So hopefully he will be able to go to a farm where he can continue to procreate if that's the option that we go with. So we recently got rid of all of our other breeds of roosters because we wanted to solely focus on keeping the American Bress here on our homestead. The American Bress is our dual purpose breed, so they lay plenty of eggs for us and provide a good amount of meat for us as well. We weren't going to keep any other laying chickens, so that way we would know exactly which eggs were which whenever we wanted to hatch out more American Bress chickens. But with our family needing more and more eggs, we went ahead and got a few more chickens the other day. It's that chicken math, it just happens that way. We decided to go with some black copper Morans. I wasn't really looking for any particular breed, just one that would lay colored eggs so that whenever we collect eggs to incubate, I know which ones are our American Bress eggs and which ones are not. So hopefully these guys will start laying for us in the early spring and be able to add to our egg production. They are in quarantine right now because I just got them a day or two ago, and I don't want to bring anything into my flock. My flock is nice and healthy right now, and I want to keep it that way. So they are being kept over by the shop in the chicken tractor, and we're going to check them over for lice and just make sure that they aren't showing any signs of anything that could pass on to the rest of our flock. So after the pigs, we brought home our first rabbit. It was a deal that I couldn't pass up. I saw somebody selling a Californian rabbit along with her cage and setup and everything for like 20 bucks. I just went ahead and got her thinking maybe she would just create some compost for our garden beds. And you know how that goes. One thing leads to another, and we decided to go ahead and expand our rabbitry. Come out for a while. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. We've been having to keep our chickens shut up inside of their fencing during the day whenever we're not out here, because we had 2 of our birds get snatched up within the past week. And unfortunately, I think there's a fox living in this part of the woods right in front of the coop. I'm pretty sure that he sits in the wood line and kind of monitors whenever they're out and they're unattended, and that's when he has snatched up a couple of our birds. So we're having to be pretty proactive about keeping our chickens inside of the electric net during the day when we're not out here with them, which kind of stinks, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to protect your animals. So we decided to expand our rabbitry and start growing them out as another source of protein here on the homestead. We started off with 1 buck and 3 does, including the very first rabbit that we had brought home. We bred them all once they were at breeding age. 2 of them had great size litters. After that first litter of rabbits, we decided to change directions of our rabbitry and switch to one specific breed of rabbits, which is the New Zealand rabbit. We just loved the temperament and the size of the one that we had, so we went ahead and rehomed all of our other stock and invested in all New Zealand breeding stock. So they were all bred and had babies this past December and had really beautiful babies. We're super happy with them. They will actually be ready to go into our freezer the first week of March, so their time is coming very quickly. It's definitely not easy to raise these animals and then to butcher them for our consumption, but it was the reason that we started to do this whole homesteading thing in the first place. The only time that it is a little bit easier to cull one of your animals is when they are just not very nice. And unfortunately, that is the case for one of our new breeding does. She was very shy when we first got her. Then she got super protective once her babies were born, which is understandable. Being a mother myself, I get that. And once her babies were grown and out of the nest and out of her hutch, she decided to get territorial once again and has started biting and scratching and charging at us. And so we have to be very cautious when we're feeding her and protect our hands and our arms. And it's animals like that that we just don't tolerate that kind of behavior. There are so many other good animals out there that it doesn't make sense for us to consume space and food and energy when we can have the ones that are very sweet and that actually make our homesteading experience enjoyable. So getting rid of one of our does means that we would need a replacement doe. So I'm not really sure how we're gonna go about it just yet, but I kind of like this one from our litter that we just had. I think the all-white New Zealands are just really cool looking, and she's a really good size, and she's got a good temperament. She is actually the daughter of the doe that we will be getting rid of, so that has me slightly concerned, but out of all of her litter, this is the most gentle one. Our buck is so super gentle and loving, and I think that she kind of takes more after him than the rest of the litter did, so I'm contemplating keeping this one here as one of our breeders going forward. What do you guys think? You probably like that idea, don't you? She's really cute. Even though a good portion of this video is about the animals that we are not keeping and the changes that we're making as far as our breeding programs go, we do have some exciting news to share about some new additions. If you watched my 2024 goals video, you may have already heard the animal that I was hoping to bring to our homestead this year. But if you didn't, the big surprise is that we are getting some sheep. We had some sheep and some goats for a very short period of time at our previous property, long enough to get to know their personalities and what they bring to the table as far as the homestead goes. And ever since we got rid of our sheep, I have wanted to have them back so desperately. I had originally thought that it was going to probably be mid to late summer before we were able to bring sheep on our property, simply because we still have quite a bit of land work to do. We have some areas of our property that just sit lower and hold a lot of water, and we didn't want to bring sheep here and then have to battle with the mud and also have to work around them to get the land fixed. Well, an opportunity arose, and one of my sheep farming friends had a sheep bundle that she was looking to move, and it was just such a great deal. And so we decided that we'll go ahead and put up a temporary pen here on the land while we still continue to work on the rest of the land and get the rest of the pasture in order. So we bought 6 sheep, and 3 of the ewes are pregnant. So our sheep herd will be quite substantial by the end of the year, but I'm super excited. Stay tuned for the video of us setting up this sheep pen area and for the day that we bring them home, which is hopefully pretty soon. Now, our sheep will be another source of protein here on the farm, but they are also known for their beautiful wool coats. We are getting Teeswater sheep, whose wool is highly sought after in the fiber world. We are not into fibers just yet, maybe one day, but it is an additional source of income that we can sell their wool and use that to put back into our farm here. Now, this particular breed is not known for their dairy production. Our second main goal for our sheep were to have a source of dairy here on our homestead. So what we have done is we have bought a dairy breed ram and plan to crossbreed whenever the time comes to breed them again. And so that way next year, hopefully we'll have a bunch of ewes or female sheep to produce us some milk here on our homestead. As far as those loud, obnoxious geese over there, their fate has yet to be determined here on the homestead. They do warn the chickens and squawk and that kind of thing, but as you've seen in previous videos, our roosters and our geese don't particularly get along. So the geese kind of do their own thing, and unfortunately after this past week of us losing 2 chickens on the goose's watch, we are kind of debating whether or not to keep them around. Do we keep 2 super loud animals on the property that aren't serving a purpose? That's really the point of these type of reassessments here on the homestead, is what is actually serving us versus us serving them. Of course, we work together and we do provide the very best life that we can for our animals, but ultimately their presence here is to serve us. And once the roles get reversed to where we are serving them without some kind of return, then it's not sustainable for the homestead. Now, you may choose to run your homestead differently and keep a bunch of pets, which is great. I would love to be able to do that too, but that's just not our game plan here. We do have a couple of animals that we keep for pets, but even they have their jobs too. I mean, our dogs, even though they lay around inside most of the day, whenever they come out, they do perimeter checks and they do ward things off that may be lurking in the shadows. And most importantly, they don't go after any of our other livestock. It's all kind of a symbiotic relationship that we have going here. And unfortunately, some things get out of balance, and so we have to make cuts and make hard decisions for the good of our homestead. So we are always planning and thinking ahead for the future of our homestead, and our future is looking very exciting. I'm looking forward to the spring and the summer and the production season here on the homestead. We'll see how things unfold as far as our breeding stock with our pigs and with our rabbits and our chickens and eventually even our sheep. Thank you guys for tuning in and lending an ear and seeing what's going on here on our homestead. We plan to keep you guys updated with the decisions that we make and the process that goes along with it. So be sure to stay tuned, and until the next video, we'll see you guys later. Bye.